you done to our truck? Did you have any brakes?
No.
None at all?
There's resistance on the pedal, but nothing that's effective really.
Okay.
Having no brakes ain't going to stop us swimming, but could cause a few problems on dry land. So the Major stuffs Axel in the cab for the rest of the day under orders to sort the problem out. And after a 2-hour struggle, Axel knows what any army mechanic of the 60s and 70s could have told him. Stollies might be fun to drive, but they're a pig to work on.
There you go, there's one part. These are the push rods that go into the master brake cylinder. To get this bit out, we've had to remove one footplate, one seat, 6,000 screws, and everything else.
Yep. Once Axel finally got the system apart, he found the culprit.
Right, here we have our brake master cylinders. I'll reach in here. This is what we've got, lots and lots of sand. Sand's got in, perished our seals, which is causing the brake fluid to leak out. This isn't good, so what we're going to have to do is replace it.
The sand has somehow got into the brake system and it's caused holes in the rubber seals.
Lovely stuff.
Now when the brake is pressed, all that happens is that the fluid squirts out of the damaged seals rather than operating the brakes. And what's more, the stolly seems to be full of the stuff.
This is ridiculous. I mean, there's less sand in the Sahara than there is in this stolly.
It's wrecked the brakes, and there's a good chance it's also damaged the engine and gearbox. If it has, then we may as well throw the stolly away. It's the second day of the squaddies' challenge to get 8 tons of stolly swimming, and their mission is already in trouble. The stolly's brake wrecked by a strange sand that seems to have got into everything.
Yeah, that's our problem. Jeez.
And opinions are divided as to where it came from.
What's this debris and sand coming out the back?
Yeah. This is, yeah. It's either been to the beach or has this been sandblasted? Nobody's ever bothered to get out of it.
Next to the radiator as well.
My best guess is it's been sandblasted because there's so much in the plug holes.
It says something, the sand in there is not sandblasted.
But it is. It is.
I'm telling you right now, there's that much sand in there, it's that deep.
That's a lot of sand to bring in there in your boots.
Hey, I think it's been driven on maybe a sandy something. A lot of sand has got in.
No.
I was saying, sandblasting, I don't think you would use that much sand. You wouldn't use that much sand all over the inside. I've taken out that much sand all over the inside of the cab.
That's the point of sandblasting. It doesn't matter. They probably didn't even do the cab. They did the whole of the back bit.
Why does it taste of salt then?
This is the whole. You've been eating it.
Why does it taste of salt then?
You've been eating it.
Sandblasting it isn't a good idea.
That's just. I don't know why people do it. Because I suppose it's just that instant reaction. They've got instantly shiny piece of equipment.
With one dissenting voice, the vote goes to the theory that some years ago, some twit tried sandblasting en route to a new paint job. Unfortunately, his or her enthusiasm could well have wrecked the whole vehicle. Whatever the truth, even with Axel eating it, they can only clean out some of the sand. To get rid of every last grain, the brakeless stolly limps to the most powerful car wash in the country.
Look at that shake off, just still full of sand. Got it?
Yeah.
Oh, cheers, mate. Got in the eyes.
Oh, sorry, mate. It's flowing everywhere.
Stand like this, Claire. 1 foot back.
The facility is usually used to clean the mud off the Army's nice new tanks. Squirting out water at a pressure around 80 pounds per square inch, it can quite literally you off your feet.
Watch it.
It's working.
There's 2 of you.
Yeah, it's like Niagara. Fantastic. Wonderful.
Finally, the sand is out.
That is disgusting.
But have they managed to save the stolly? They won't know until Axel and the Major have spent the rest of the day cursing in the cab, reassembling the brake system and the dozens of other bits and bobs Axel had to remove to get at it.
Oh, Mr. Scotty, you're not my favourite friend today.
Only 2 days in, and both Axel and Claire have had it with our amphibious truck.
I prefer the squash fried biscuit at the moment. The stalwart's not. The stalwart's all right. It's going to keep hanging on to the fact that it will swim, but until that moment, it's just awful. It's the worst car you could possibly buy. Everything has just gone wrong. You fix one thing and just something else breaks. It's a lemon.
Lemon or not, the Major's under orders to make her sweet, and her owner's expecting great things of the squad. The mission's got 4 days to run, the brakes are fixed, and the sand hasn't done too much damage elsewhere, but they're behind schedule, and army life is about to get tough.
And we've had a third of our time allocated for this project, and I don't think, well, I know we haven't achieved a third of our work, so we're going to have to change our work ethics if we're going to complete this on time, and that is longer work periods and shorter tea breaks, okay?
The team are now starting to make the stolly watertight. The cab has no doors, the crew entering through hatches in the roof. The biggest problem is that when she swims, her engine is well below water level, and if her cargo bay doors spring a leak, she sinks. To keep disaster at bay, the doors are fitted with the aquatic equivalent of a draft excluder, 2 big bits of rubber stuffed in the crack, which, the theory says, will jam together tight enough to keep the H2O at bay.
The water level when this machine is swimming comes up to about there, so this has got to be it's really important that this is watertight, because otherwise everyone's going to get their feet wet in the back and you end up with a drowned engine.
The new seals will be held in place by both glue and a long strip of metal tucked inside the hollow rubber, which will clamp down its edges.
Smells good.
It all starts well enough. The metal clamping strip is inserted into the new seal and fitted temporarily in place.
Can't be done, can't be done.
But as soon as they start the gluing and bolting, disorder breaks out in the ranks, and it's all fingers and thumbs until the Major asserts his authority.
It's been a good idea to check if all these threads were clear before we started.
Axel, we want to finish this year.
Okay.
Put the old doofer on, let's get some motion.
Come on, play nicely together.
This is going to be hard now, this is the hard bit.
That's good.
I don't want to do it anymore.
In all, the first 20 feet of rubber takes 3 hours.
What time do we start this?
9 o'clock, 10 o'clock.
10 o'clock, so that's 3 hours. This is all we're going to get done today if we're going to go at this rate. We've got the other side to do, we've got the back to do.
But there is worse. A good bit of the metal clamping strip that will hold the rest of the seals onto the stolly is rusted beyond use. So before they can finish the last of the seals, Claire and the Sergeant Major are going to have to knock up some more.
That's what came off the stolly, and it's completely corroded. There's no way we can use it. We're going to have to manufacture new bits. Can you see underneath all the rust? It's actually a curved profile.
Yeah, it is.
And unfortunately, our piece of raw material is flat at the moment, so we're going to have to make that in order for it to pinch down on the rubber and make that seal.
The new strip starts life as a piece of flat metal. To pinch the edges of the rubber seal, it has to be bent into a sort of C shape. To do that, they use a powerful press to crush the metal into the shape needed.
Check it in the jig. Oh, that's looking good. So that's the curve of the metal along the length, but we really want to get it that shape, so we're going to have to curve the metal to get that corner piece.
Now it's the right C shape across the way, put it in the press again, this time to bend it lengthways, through the 90 degrees needed at the corners.
If we put that in there, we could cut it to the right length and struggle with it, just make me feel better.
The next job is to drill a bunch of holes down the middle of the strip to take the bolts that will attach it to the stolly. They're going to be brazed on with molten brass. The technique's just like soldering, but the temperature is much higher. The grey paste Claire's dipping the brass rod into is called flux and helps form a bond free from weaknesses when the brass melts at around 430 degrees Celsius. All this heat and sweat is getting to the Sergeant Major. He's not used to being locked in a workshop with a beautiful woman, and his guard is dropped. Sensing her chance, Claire is in there like a shot, extracting every military secret she can.
Here you go, chap. Knock another hole in that.
Okay.
So, is it normal to see Mr. Ben or Major Ben?
Mr. Benny will love that.
Mr. Ben with his hands grubby, you know, because he's really been pitching in.
He has. He's a hands-on chap, but don't get the wrong impression about commissioned officers and majors. It's not a normal occurrence for them to be down on the tank park, getting stuck in with the boys.
With Claire going all Mata Hari, my own intelligence gathering had come up trumps. I'd been contacted by Mike Manell, who'd heard me on the force's radio. He claims to have driven our stolly in the 1970s when he was a lance bombardier in the Royal Artillery. He's left the army now, but was keen to meet up in his old regiment's museum, a place packed full of the toys he played with when he was a soldier.
Oh, this is much better nick than the one. I tell you, our one looked a bit of a pile of old scrap at the minute.
The one I drove, 18ET03, was one of the quickest in the battery, and that got about 43 miles an hour at 5,000 RPM. They were great fun. They were a great fun vehicle to drive, despite their reliability problems. But they weren't easy to drive, but I think it was because they weren't easy to drive, there was a challenge to drive them, which made them good fun to drive, and they were good fun.
It's got to be better than just driving a truck, isn't it?
Indeed, yeah. This cross-country, you don't beat this thing.
Now, soldiers aren't in the army just to have fun. Back then, half of Germany was full of Russians who owned some very big missiles and an awful lot of tanks. Now, if they'd ever fancied invading the other half of Germany, our chaps would have been there waiting for them, and in no time at all would have had them running back home with a bloody nose and a healthy respect for our stiff upper lip. And that's where our stolly came in. If our boys at the front line were going to give the Russian lot a damned good spanking, then plucky chaps like Mike Manell and his stolly would have had to do their bit, charging across the fields and swimming across the northern Germany, making sure much-needed ammo got to the front line without a moment's delay.
Should hostilities have broken out, they would have taken place in our sector from there right the way across to the coast. And as you can see on the map, there are several rather large, and the Weser being the main one, river obstacles. So we needed to be able to go across those and not be hindered by the natural obstacles.
If our stolly is to cross any rivers, then it's down to Axel. He's been given orders to try and find the parts for her water jets that were scrapped by the army in 1981. It may come as some surprise to you, but hidden under the counter of many a local newsagent are magazines openly advertising everything from an ex-army Land Rover to a chieftain tank. But since the army scrapped the parts we needed 20 years ago, the ads ain't exactly full of them.
Hello mate, listen, I'm after a Stolly swim kit for a 1967 Mark II. Do you have one? Is it? Right. Nothing like that left. Right. I reckon more than a month? Or a month to 2 months.
As Axel goes down the list, things are looking desperate.